This is an SM Media production.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2024. I'm Scotty Pike. It's always a pleasure to be your host, and I'm delighted as always to be joined by, from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin.
Hi there, yeah. Not long now at all, 5 weeks away. Cheltenham stable tours are coming out next week, so it's definitely getting busier. I think targets have been finalised. Obviously, we've just had the Dublin Racing Festival, which arguably maybe produced more questions than answers. Certainly in the novices division, I think kind of the main kind of champion hurdle and champion chase and Gold Cup markets look pretty cut and dry, but the novice picture looks very open and very interesting indeed.
Yeah, and we'll dissect it. All the races at the Dublin Racing Festival. Overall, very, very good week. I maybe have a different opinion to a lot of other people, but I actually enjoyed both days racing. I like the dominant side of it. But again, that's something we'll touch on with this first question. We got a few questions in, and they're all very relevant to what's been a busy week in the jump season calendar. Is the Willie Mullins dominance ruining jump racing, Callum? I think we might have similar views, but we also could have different views on this. Willie Mullins won all 8 Grade 1s at the Dublin Racing Festival. He won 9 of the 15 races. There's obviously people saying that that makes the Dublin Racing Festival kind of non-existent in terms of a showcase, and there might be some truth in that. But overall, Willie Mullins is the top man in jump racing. Let's not kid ourselves here. He's dominant, but is that a good thing, or is that kind of ruining the competitive side of it?
I don't think he's ruining it. I think it's detrimental to the sport. It's not a healthy situation. That novice hurdle, I think he's won 10 of the last 11. In that, and it's pretty straightforward. But I think the kind of the depth that he's got, the strength that he's got, and it is up to the rest to up their game and get close to him. You've got to give the big spending owners a reason to not send their horses there, and send them to you. And he's proven that he's the best. He's the best in the business. I think what he's done with Galloping Deschamps is nothing short of sensational to mould him into a Gold Cup horse. He's got strength in every division. I mean, he's sourcing them out well. He's got a really strong team. They're well looked after. He commands the correct fees, and it's not as if it was the same ownership, if it was the same owners all the time, I think there'd be a real problem on our hands. But the fact that they're different owners, and once the calendar hits a certain point, he does start bringing them after Christmas, and they do start racing against each other. The problem is that it's so prolonged, the dominance now, and the gap seems to be getting bigger. And by middle of Sunday, I was quite bored. I was fortunate. I was glad that I saw a loud performance from Ballyburn. It was a bit something different, because you know what State Man's going to do. You know what El Fabiolo's going to do. The Ladbrokes Novice Chase being a match was farcical. That really did put me off the day, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, I can tolerate 3 or 4 runners in a Grade 1. I think a match race in a Grade 1 is categorically unacceptable. And that's not down to Willie Mullins either. Other trainers should be rolling the dice for, at least you're going to get third there. And that usually happens in Ireland. It's usually not, that obvious in a match between the same trainer. And, it's supposed to be the best against the best. And if you're seeing one of the Grade 1s being a Mickey Mouse 2-runner affair, I don't care who the horses are. They could be the best 2 in the world, but it shouldn't be like that. That's not a competitive nature of sport. And I think for punters, I don't think it's great either. I think you're getting a lot of uncompetitive racing, a lot of prohibitive prices, and even with a view to Cheltenham, and you've got Ballyburn, Fact to File, probably bankers. You've got no idea where they'll go. You won't know. And that's why my portfolio, and I know it's a very mixed bag, but it has very few Willie Mullins horses in it, because even if you do like them, you've got no idea what race they could go. In terms of novices, absolutely none. Because he can send 1 there, 2 there, 3 there, 4 there, 5 there, and he can assemble. He can win the Ballymore by stealth, by playing 4 or 5, and maybe playing his top 2 in the Supreme. to cover it that way, or it's the thing when you've got so much power and concentrated in one person's hands. Horses will go different routes that you'd never ever expect before, and he can do that. He's a kingmaker and he can balance them out. So it can become a bit internally tactical. Well, you're trying to think of this one horse thing. I think no, actually, you have to the dominance is so vast that you have to try and second guess this guy, and everyone knows, Willie Mullins bingo. It's a thankless task to do so. So I think that is why everyone's more inclined to kind of wait for the day, see who Paul Townend picks, and Mark Walsh, and Danny Mullins. That's almost a bigger clue than the form book, because the form book is showing Mullins horses beating other Mullins horses mainly, and it blurs form lines. I think it's a total nightmare for punters, and the fact that it's happening year on year and year, and it just seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I think your more and more casual observer will start switching off.
What do you think of the kind of couple of people, like Kevin Blake's been very vocal about this? There was a couple of things on like Racing TV during the week. We need the top races at the Dublin Racing Festival to become handicaps, and you obviously limit it to a maximum of three horses for a certain trainer. I don't personally think that is the long-term solution to a thing like this. The financial fair play thing as well. I just think there needs to be a long-term plan because I don't think we should be punishing a trainer for having the best horses. And I remember in this conversation a few years ago with someone, if you are putting millions and millions of pounds into a sport, you want to send that horse or whoever to the best person to get you profit. Do you know what I mean? There's no point spending 200-300 grand on a horse to send it to a trainer who you might get, do you know what I mean, third in a grade 1. Do you know what I mean? You're wanting your value for money if you're spending that much. So I don't think that should be punishable to the trainer. I think when you look at the owners Willie Mullins has as well, maybe with the exception of one or two, they have horses with other yards. Like McManus has horses with everybody. Donnelly's have horses with Henderson. Like I'm thinking the Richies have even in the past couple of years been putting horses with like Venetia Williams and things like that. It's not like every single owner he has is going, right, we're only going with Willie Mullins. They're spreading it out. Do you know what I mean? Like you saw with that ridiculous sale. Do you know what I mean? Willie Mullins didn't buy one of them. And do you know what I mean? So it's not like other trainers aren't getting the resources. It's just Willie Mullins uses them better and has a better training mindset and knows what to get the best out of horses that you might think are below average. Eli de Tom's won 2 grade 1s. He shouldn't be. But Willie Mullins has got him there.
Yeah, I mean, GP McManus, for instance, I mean, he does operate at every scale of the game.
Mm-hmm.
These people are so well connected. They are sending their best horses to Mullins. I mean, they're sourcing them out, and the vast majority of them are going there because he's the best equipped to do it, and they're all very well connected and obviously going to stay in the pool. As regards the programme, the racing calendar is a bigger problem than the Mullins factor to me. I mean, there's not enough horses to accommodate the number of races Britain and Ireland are putting on. That is not a Willie Mullins problem in that regard. I mean, if he did hold some of them back, where would he be?
Yeah.
Even in a worse position. So I think there's a case maybe demoting some grade 1s to grade 2s in Ireland. I think Britain, because it's generally a lower grade of horse there, and there's more racetracks, they are turning more of them into handicaps now just to get competitive racing that reflects the quality of horse. And I don't think that would work for Ireland, for instance, because in fact, if File's probably high 150s already. What's the benefit of running him in a handicap against 130? He just won't run him.
Mm-hmm.
He'll run something else. He's got that much depth that you wouldn't even get the classes here. And limiting them to 2 or 3. I mean, Gordon Elliott ran 14 in the Troy Town, but it was actually still not a full race. So that race filled only because of Gordon Elliott. So if you take him out of the equation, you would get, a 13, 14 runner Troy Town instead of 25.
Mm-hmm.
There's no kind of, I don't think there's a silver bullet to solve it. And racing's had periods of domination before. Willie Mullins historically done. I mean, Vincent O'Brien is very dominant. Ian O'Brien's very dominant in the flat. It's an open market, and the horses and particularly in the flat game, it studs resale value. I mean, you've got the Middle East coming up strong, you've got the Far East coming strong, Australia, USA. I mean, you've got different kind of ports of call there. The National Hunt game's largely dominated by Ireland, but it's Willie Mullins is answerable to the owners, and if his form did all of a sudden dip, then some of them will think about maybe sending a few more here and a few more there as well. So I don't personally blame him for it. I just think it's just how the gap seems to be getting bigger rather than smaller is a bit of a concern. But it's his period of domination, and full credit to him, because you'd think you'd get to a point where it's almost too big for him. You'd have too many horses, and you kind of maybe lose a touch about 5 or 6, and some of them kind of slip through, and some of them that you get wrong. But he doesn't do that, because he's got Ruby Walsh in the background, Patrick Mullins, David Casey. The list is endless of talented work riders, and that's the whole backbone of these big successful operations is a backroom team behind Willie Mullins, people behind Aidan O'Brien. You've got work riders that be top class jockeys over here.
Yeah.
And they're just riding work. It's constant, it's relentless, and it's down to other trainers to kind of really have a go and try and catch up. And it's definitely going to be a thankless task.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question in order: who are the top 3 jump jockeys in the UK and Ireland? Very good question, that actually. Right, who have we got number 3?
Right now, today.
Yes.
Number 3, Harry Corbin.
I've got number 3, Jack Kennedy. I've got Cobden at number 2.
Number 2 for me is Paul Townend.
Okay. I've got Townend number 1. Who have you got number 1?
Jack Kennedy's number 1.
Right,
me.
so we've got the same 3, obviously, in a different order, but I think I am really looking forward to, if Sean Bowen's obviously due back, I think he's already back riding. It could get really, really tight in that Jockey's Championship, and we've been needing that for a while. When was the last time it was really competitive like this?
I think talent-wise, it's very close. I mean, the top 3 there, but I think they're all very tight and on a different day and different tracks. I think they're different. I mean, I think Rachel Blackmore enters the equation when it comes to big festivals. I think Danny Mullins is obviously very good when he gets his chances. Sean Bowens is strong in the finish as well. There's plenty. I think Nico de Boinville doesn't get much credit, but he gets it right more often than not in really big days for Nicky Henderson. And that's a kind of high profile job there. So yeah, it's 7 there, and Mark Walsh is having a really good season. And to be GP McManus number 1 is no mean feat. So those 8 are instantly ones that you would look at. I don't think Sean Bowen's going to get many Cheltenham chances, so you'd probably dwindle that down to 7. And there's decent conditionals coming through as well. So yeah, I think Jack Kenny now hopefully stays fit, because I think, and he's a full season in his belt, I think he's very, very good, and he doesn't quite get the ammunition that others have as well. I think he's potentially top class.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement on who the top 3 are anyway, and I think there's absolutely fair enough to bring the likes of Mark Walsh and Rachel Blackmore in. There's a lot of really good jockeys coming through. Final question: with the Caldwell Construction sale at the weekend, Calum, what would you do with €740,000?
Yeah, not buy Caldwell Potter probably.
Do you think in comparison to some of the other sales, like $570 for Pied Piper, for example, like, is Caldwell Potter maybe fair enough at that price compared to the others?
I think so. I mean, it's like the Sir Alex Ferguson team, isn't it, going to Paul Nicholls? So he's going to be a future chaser down the line. So I would rather spend more on him, like proving Grade 1 form. But I mean, these horses going like for a good kind of point to pointer now. And a top notch is like 450, 500 grand quite comfortably. So it's just kind of a different world to what you know. I mean, 740 grand to me is just like sit pretty and live comfortably for 5-10 years, and stay under the radar, and keep it as best as possible, spend it and go on a few holidays and things like that. Pay off the mortgage, stuff like that, and just make things comfortable. But I mean, people like that like big business ideas and big recreational activities and spend it in a different way. It's just how the other half live. But I mean, for me, I'd be banking it, maybe be like sticking kind of a bit on it, try and get on track at Cheltenham, and maybe keep $100 grand for it and go in the satchels for the week, and try and find the bank and actually put some big money in it and get a thrill that way, and can see why people are hooked in the game. But yeah, I would definitely never ever buy a horse with it. That's for sure.
No, I think it was some of the money going about was obscene. It was. I mean, there's horses there. There was some that are like so I've got a kind of Staffordshire Knot. You're thinking, I think he was like 300 grand. Kind of understood that, because you're thinking, right, he could go on and be a decent. Phil Dora got to degrees where I thought it was way too dear, but he is a trusted graded operator, and they don't come about very often that they're proven. So get it, but I just thought some of the money, and it was quite fascinating actually. I was sitting watching it on my iPad, and my partner was sitting next to me, and she was really fascinated by the auction side of it. See the kind of the way the auction guy was talking. It's always brilliant. I love it.
So it's a bit better than bargain hunt, to be honest, isn't it?
It is, but it was just going up and going up, and I said about Caldwell Potter, I said this could possibly go for $1 million, and they were talking about that during the week. They were saying it might get to $1 million if there's a bidding war, and you could see out the corner of your eye. I don't know if you saw it. Gordon Elliott was bidding, but I didn't know who he was bidding for. Well, I don't know what owner he was, like who he was going to or whatever. But it was actually quite intriguing to see this kind of duel I thought he would go for more, but I just thought it was very, very fascinating. It won't happen very often that a Grade 1 winner will be sold after winning a Grade 1. So it was quite entertaining, but the money going about was absolutely ridiculous. But let's move into quite a busy recap for the week. Right, Calum, we'll group the Dublin Racing Festival in together. We'll start on Saturday at Musselburgh. We had a lot of good racing at Musselburgh, probably dominated by Nichols and Cobden, but one horse that might make a wee splash at Cheltenham, whether he might kind of get into the frame of the turners, is Marble Sands. Jumped really left, I think, kind of going the other way around, maybe suiting. Won the Frodon handicap chase. Looks to be maybe if the turners was to fall apart, as it might, we're seeing it could fall apart. It could be in the frame maybe each way.
Yeah, I think I'll be optimistic. I don't think Cheltenham's really on the radar. It went flat track, Cato Star, he was kind of out of his depth there, and I think he'd be out of the depth at Cheltenham. I think this race has been scrapped with the Scottish Grand National Meeting, but that Grade 2, 2.5 mile at air, the Scottish future champion chase would have been ideal for him, I think. Maybe have a tilty entry, but I do think I think the way he adjusts at fences, I think he'd be much more suited to flat track. I don't think Cheltenham would suit him either. And he's probably not good enough. Quite a few well-fancied horses kind of underperformed there, and that is a race that has churned out the odd kind of festival winner at handicap level. But I don't think he's won. And he was one of Fergal O'Brien, Graham McPherson, one that they kept up north, the McPherson yard. So I think Ayr might be on the agenda there. If I don't know what's happened to that novice race. I don't know if it's completely scrapped at all or turned into handicap, but if there's a kind of 2.5 mile kind of class here, because there'll be decent prize money up there, I would kind of aim him around that, I would say.
Yeah, no, it could be interesting. Sandown with a couple. We'll start with Jinko Blue for Nicky Henderson, 1 to 6 lengths. So it was a bit keen and he made a couple of mistakes, but he just got into the race really, really comfortably and had a really good jump at the last. I think this could be another potential player. There's some good horses coming out of that kind of red and white syndicate. I think they could be a kind of future player going forward.
Yeah, he's kind of been just that kind of rung underneath, Nicky Henderson's best, but he's improved there. Off top weight, which is no mean feat, decent little handicap in behind her. I thought a few of them were exposed. But your eye was always drawn to him. He was prominent. He was even kind of doing kind of odd novice bits here. I think a bigger field and a stronger run race, I think he might seem to better effect. He's got a mark. He's up to 138. I thought he might be a Martin Pipe horse.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. That wouldn't overly surprise me if that's the road they went down. The Silly Isles was won by Nickelback. It was tarred by obviously the fatal fall of Hermes Allen, which is obviously a real sickener. It was a really bad fall if you watched it back. But Nickelback jumped really well, just took the bull by the horns and led for the front and was unchallenged. And it was one of those in a smash and grab races where the front runner just took it.
If you get into a rhythm at the railway fences, they're very hard to peg back. He was meeting them quite well, and back up to 2.5 miles worked out quite well, and they were never pegging him back. Crunching fall for him was Alan horrible, because he did have a very good future. Did quite well in behind Ellis Francais, of course, and he was probably going to fill the same place again there. But that was a hefty one, and I think he would have been a sweet player in the turners down the line. I think his future was probably next season as well. So, I mean, we have had some kind of really tough, hard, high-profile fatalities in this weekend and in recent years. He was sadly another one, but Nickelback did it well. I think they're leaning against Cheltenham. Tunnels was a bit of kind of a speculative entry, Sarah Humphrey said at the time, but he's improving and learning a little bit. If he's the type of horse that's dangerous when loose and when he gets it right, he's very measured. He looks a bit better going right-handed than left-handed, and I think when the best of the Irish come, I don't think he's got much hope. But I mean, he's run to what, low 140s there for me. That shouldn't be enough in a Tunners, but not long till May ran well from that Musselburgh race that we were talking about last season in second. So I mean, that is a race that can cut up more than most. So he's entitled to go there if connections believe that he's worth taking a chance. You know, he's won a Grade 1 Selly Isles, which is one of the big novice chase races all season.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think he deserves the respect. I was great for the trainer as well to get a Grade 1 winner. Sunday in Musselburgh, there was a few horses. Obviously, Nichols and Cobden won the first three. Liari, I think, is a really good horse. Could potentially be an entry horse. You had the Curly Finger winning the Pertemps hurdle, which was obviously marred by Absolute Notions, who I thought was travelling quite well. What went wrong was horrible to watch. You had the likes of, there was another couple like the Corrigan Rock, I thought was good for Lucinda Russell, and then that horrible final race of the bumper where the winner just the horse just looked to go wrong again, and it just looked horrible. Any for the Sunday catch your eye for potential clues for the future?
In relation to Cheltenham, probably not. I don't think the peloton was that strong. Tragic what happened to Absolute Notions. I don't think he was going overly well. I mean, he's picking up, but I thought he was fighting a losing battle to get into the top four. And then the horrible incident in the bumper. I mean, happening on the flat as well is incredibly unusual.
Yeah.
And right in front of the stands. I mean, I'm usually at that meeting. I wasn't this year, but I mean that. It's stuff like that. I mean, it's a big student promotion as well. It's kind of stuff like that happens in jump racing. But if you see it, it's a sport that will never be for you. In kind of things. Corrigan Rock was good, but he's far better right-handed. Lucinda Russell's acknowledged that. They're going to target Punchestown with him. A handicap there, 141. Not totally out the equation there. I would say if he gets in a rhythm there. Thunder Rock would prefer softer ground. A bit more of a stamina test. He came from quite a wee back. A strongly run plate might be up his street, but he did make a lot of jumping mistakes at Cheltenham last year when Bill fancied, and you do wonder if that is his track for him. Liari, I mean, when Paul Nicholls sends a juvenile up here, you've got to absolutely hammer it for what it's worth. Affadale even won in the same card this year as well, and you've just got to take these gifts when you can in a competitive Saturday. He's good. I think he's probably his best. 4 teams for Triumph. If they pitch him in there, he's not bad. He'll probably need decent ground. He was always a winner. He didn't beat much, in fairness, but if he was in the spring juvenile at Dublin Racing Festival, I think he'd been on the heels of the Mullins battalion. I think he's that kind of caliber, but he's got a future, and Paul Nicholls kind of maybe lean towards entry with him, but I think he's one to note significantly down the line. So yeah, he was the one that really caught the eye for me.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the Dublin Racing Festival. We'll start with the first race on Saturday. It was the Nathaniel Lacey Novices Hurdle, and it was won by the outsider in the form of Dancing City for Willie and Danny Mullins. Predators Gold was, I thought, ran a good race. I think probably the one to take out. Jatara just didn't jump well enough and was far too keen. What do you make of this race?
Not much. It was at a week look beforehand. It was at the end. Dancing City split. Ballyburn Slade stealing a Punchestown bumper that all of a sudden seems very good form now, and it's obvious in hindsight. He was about 25s, 33s in places, and he was hammered in the off. And I think with the jockey bookings, I think that was a Dublin Racing Festival trend of just ignore the others. Just Danny Mullins, Paul Townend. That's all you need to know, really. The others, apart from Rachel Blackmore, when he gets a chance, you can kind of cast him aside, really. We'll go with that. He stayed on well. It was a clever ride. Jatara, I thought would have been closer if he didn't lose her iron and that lit her up, and that emptied the petrol tank before the bend, and I think it cost about 3 lengths, which was the distance she was beaten. So I think she could have, and she was kind of trying to rally as well. I think she could have won that a different day. It didn't it went kind of a bit wrong for her. She was in the box seat throughout. Predator's Gold, again, shaped with a lot of promise. Didn't quite get home because he was too keen, but he's kind of a big, raw, young horse, 5-year-old.
Ballymore?
Yeah, stepping back the Ballymore, yes, but he probably needs another year. I think you might see better of him next year. But if he improves again, he's an each way player. It's about 20s, but you just think he's maybe a level below the best, and filling that same second spot in kind of a similar fashion suggests that he probably is. But he's one of a clutch that seemed to be going Bearing Bingham route for Mullins.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the spring juvenile hurdle. It was won by Willie Mullins. It was won by Cargisi. I think there's many different pronunciations. I'm just going to go by Cargisi because that's what I've heard it as. I think we were hoping that we would see a superstar emerge here. I don't think we did, but I think we saw a lot of promising talents for the future.
Yeah, I think they're. I think the top 6 are probably very good juveniles, but they might be bumping into an exceptional one come Cheltenham, and that's the kind of difference, because I think Sergino's in the 140, 145 bracket, and these are in the 130, 135 bracket at the moment. Now, I mean, the likes of Marlborough, who's ran a stormer second from front on debut, he's probably the one to take out of it in the long run. I think he's probably a chaser down the line. He only missed one flight of hurdles there, and he's only had one run as well. He's massively, to run like that in debut, I mean, he could improve majorly. He might be the one that could trouble Sergino the most. I thought Stormheart ran well, got a bad trip, forced wide throughout. I think at Cheltenham, I think he can reverse the form with the winner. I think the winner had squeezed it at time, but I think she settled a bit better and was able to kind of pick her up and show her experience, and that kind of winner of the day. Bunting was, again, I thought she quite well out the back.
Okay, yeah.
Probably needs it a bit wetter than that, but didn't get the best of rise. I didn't think out the back. Found quite a lot of trouble. Stayed on again. Calaconte rallied quite well when the shot was done with, so they didn't go a hell for leather gallop. It was kind of an even pace. She was coming back at them and only beaten 2 3/4 lengths. But I think Gornellic's leaning towards Fairyhouse 2.5 mile open grade 1 race rather than Triumph, because I think quite keen to step her up and trip after that. So yeah, and I think there was quite a lot to kind of take out of that, and Ethical Diamond improved massively.
I think he could be a good novice next year. I think they might just run him in grade 1s and maybe look towards kind of next season as a novice. So maybe what they did with Gaelic Warrior kind of thing.
But yeah, Gaelic Warrior, a bit L80 Tom, like, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if they went that route. But yeah, a lot of promised ones. Is a Triumph for the winner there? Probably not. But
I hope not.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean, again, it's juveniles and they can improve at different rates. But I do think Stormheart and Miles are probably the ones to take out. I think they can turn the form around. We could guess probably Bunting as well, potentially. But I do think, and I think Willie Mullins has announced his intention that all 4 of them are basically going to take a chance, and why not? The juveniles for 1 season, so you might as well. But yeah, I think they can improve again, but they'll have to worry Sergino, who can improve himself as well.
Yeah, I think Nicky Henderson made a point. He said that
he's not scared, is he?
Overly worried, and I kind of thought that was the one thing that kind of immediately after the race I thought it was quite a good finish. There was a few promising ones, but as a Sergino backer, I was like, I'm not overly worried about any of them. But again, stranger things have happened. But right now, I think Sergino's got the probably banking material written all over him. We'll move into the Arkle Novices Chase. This is a puzzle in itself. We probably spend half an hour on this race. We thought we were going to see Marine National stake his claim. Obviously, didn't run well at all with a difficult race. LA de Tom made it 3 out of 3 for Danny Mullins. Found a 50 for Annette. This is a puzzle. I don't know where to start here, to be honest. I think the Arkle was even more wide open than probably it was at any point in the season.
Yeah, back to square one, isn't it?
Yeah,
for all these. Yeah, it's obviously do the winner first. L80 Tom, he's again clever. Danny Mullins ride, stalked them, pounced at the right time, and jumped the last better when it mattered, and came and mugged, kind of found the 50 a little bit. He doesn't scream Arkle winner to me. I mean, I remember that happened in Supreme where he kind of took a bit of a backward step. He's not the biggest in the world. I think he's got much scope. I'd be surprised if something didn't improve past him. Found the 50, looked a bit more mature, looked a bit more straightforward, conventional, didn't jump wildly right as he did the last day. Was coming back a little bit of the line, but the back of your mind, the way he travelled over last season, and he got into an awful mess. And has he? Is he a good traveller? That'd be my worry. With him, again, he doesn't totally scream Arco winner to be. Facile Vega improved from his Christmas run, but again, jumping seems to be hard work for him.
There's talk of him being going off favourite for the Turners. Is that something you think could happen?
No, there's a sea of blue for him this morning for the Arkle. I think Willie Mullins is really persisting with him to try and keep him to 2 miles this season. Even when he's got it in his head, he genuinely just does it. He switched Appreciated to the middle distance strip that year, but I think Factifile might be his Turner's horse now. I'm afraid, but I think I just think he's desperate to get a 2 miler into him. And
yeah,
he said he was very happy with him and it was an improvement, and it was in Christmas. But it's a testament to his ability that he keeps losing lengths at the air as a iffy technique. Doesn't look natural, and he's still on the edge of things, And if he can take another kind of small step forward again, like he did maybe from last year, and at Cheltenham he was better. He could win an Arkle because it's that open.
Would be the most surprising.
I think he's more likely to win an Arkle than Elliot Chomp and Found the 50 are, personally. A bit as softly green, but I mean, there are reasons why you'd poke holes in him, obvious ones as well. But that wasn't run at a true pace either. It was a dash again. That doesn't suit him. If he gets a true run race, I think he became a bit more of a player than he is here. And then on to Marine Nationale, who just, is it wind or is it ground?
That is the question, yeah.
The big question here. I mean, he's had tongue ties on.
He's only run a second slower than he did at Christmas.
Yeah, maybe he didn't like taking on, and it's been a bit of a culture shock for him because he found it so easy the last day. Barry Connell had this big, massive statement saying, blame it on the ground. I wouldn't be so sure.
He won the Royal Bond in deep ground.
Yes, but I mean, there's like his point is, and I do understand where he's coming from, is it's this kind of like tacky holding ground where the reins kind of sits in, and therefore if the reins kind of on top, you can kind of sluice through it, while in there it was kind of sitting down, it was a bit dead and sticky and tacky, and that's why they get bogged down in it. So it kind of affects his jumping. I thought he was running a bit negatively out the back. I thought he was kind of too far away from it, and he was running for speed and he didn't pick up, mainly maybe because of the ground, maybe because his wind, because his head was going up a little bit. So I think, and we don't see him often now, and I think he is probably tricky to train. I think there's an element of both, of ground and trickiness to train. I do think he's had wind issues. I do think he's probably had. I do think the ground's probably a valid excuse as well. But
would you back him?
Checked out. No, I wouldn't back him with Stolen after that. To be honest, you can't. The drift isn't big enough. 5-2 favourite now for that. 5 weeks away. It's a tall order.
I can see him getting absolutely hammered in the day.
It depends. I mean, I think the market is going to inform you of where he's at. I mean, but I think he was pretty. It was a pretty listless effort, and maybe Michael Sullivan was kind of taking care of him a little bit because he made 2 mistakes towards the end as well, and he put his nose up alongside it, and the crowd were expecting, and then he just dropped back, really tamely against just about 150 opposition, which you'd think he would take care of. It's a risk either way. I mean, you either kind of forgive or forget. I found that pretty hard to forgive, to be honest. And I think ground, if it's good to soft, which it usually is, it's usually reasonably watered. could get into it a little bit. Yeah, I fear for him a little bit, to be honest. But I wouldn't. You can't rule him out because it's now so open. But it takes a big effort to bounce back to win an arc like that. I mean, they all. I think the last 10 winners of it. I mean, nine, all 10 of them have been top 2 or 1 last time. It's a bit like the Supreme, bit like Facile Vega, maybe the last year. You can't. He might come back to a certain extent, but is it going to be enough? And there was an interesting breeding angle as well. This side, he's from an unfashionable sire, and when they go south like that, they don't come back.
Yeah, seen that.
So maybe you like the training argument early on. But if it was like Willie Mullins' lot, you might have a bit more faith in him coming back. If it's Barry Connell and it's like a lot of pressure on a small string to get a star like that back, it's for punters that are outside looking in. I think it's even harder to trust and even more difficult to get in at 5-2.
We'll do the overall kind of handicaps at the end of the race and the Mayor's Bumper. Galloping Deschamps won the Irish Gold Cup. Calum, I text you after the race to say I thought this was probably as comfortable a performance as he's had in terms of at no point in the race, with Fast or Slow beating him twice, did you think he was ever in doubt. And just the way he picked up after 2 out, when Fast or Slow looked to be getting a grip of him, I thought it was a brilliant performance.
Yeah, I thought it was very good. I don't think it was a patch in Christmas. I thought I was a lot more confident in Christmas time, travelling in behind. I think he's better, Willie, but he showed that he can do the donkey work and fend off Fast or Slow. He ran, I thought, fairly well. He was gaining ground at his fences on Galloping Deschamps, but he couldn't really kind of capitalise on it because he didn't want to, go in front of him. So that would be more of an advantage for Fast or Slow to Gold Cup if he can out-jump him and still stay on up the hill. So there are reasons that he might be able to kind of close the gap a little bit come Cheltenham time, but he always looks command, and what he does from the last of the line always impresses me. That's the kind of thing. And he was wandering about the last, going, where's he going here? Is he a bit legless? It was clever. As soon as he met the fence, he straightened up quite nifty, quite sharp. Was down and then just saunters away. He's nimble enough. Even if he gets a luckless tripper in the Gold Cup, which is probably the only thing that could beat him form-wise, I think he's nimble enough to get out of trouble. He even did it last year when they were all kind of falling about. He's right at the back, but he's still sharp enough. He operates like a 2 mile or 2.5 mile on that, through the air, and the way he kind of niffs out. If, for instance, if Jerry Calum made similar trouble like that, I think he would lose. A lot of ground. It'd be quite hard for a horse like that to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Galloping Deschamps, I don't think it is. I think he's got it all, and I think he ran maybe about £6 below his Christmas form, with a view to. I quite like the peaking and kind of slight dip, but it's still enough, and then I think he'll come back. I think with normal luck and running, he's a good thing in the Gold Cup again. I think he's top class.
Yeah, I think he's brilliant as well. Kind of sums up the bumper season so far. We thought we had a good 1-win on Saturday, and almost instantly we heard he's not taking. He's out for the champion bumper. Jeroboam Machan, I thought, was very good. We actually got this bumper fairly right. The two of us, obviously the winner, and then You Ought to Know, I thought, ran a good race. I think will be better and better ground. Thought a lot of these ran quite well. I thought the Yellow Clay ran well. I thought Redemption Day was fine. In terms of the winner would have probably taken all the beating in a champion bumper.
Probably. He was immediately favourite, wasn't he, afterwards? I think maybe the Emmett Mullins connection, they were kind of humming and hawing whether to go straight away, so he wasn't kind of outright favouritism, but he was right there with Jasmine Dutoy and Jalon Duderis and horses like that, and Romeo Coolio in behind. Second shaped well as well. I did quite like his run. I think he was maybe tapped for toe a little bit, but your eye was always drawn to the winner.
Townend's ride in the bumper, do you think?
Who knows? You just don't know. I mean, I can leave it alone till the day, really, now. Whoever rides what's probably the bigger clue than any kind of outright form in these kind of races. Redemption Day, again, he's shaped as if he's maybe not the most straightforward over bumpers, and a dream to share this. Had his suspect fitness issues, and was kind of found out a little bit. He's obviously going to probably take the season off, and what do they do with him? They try and have a flat campaign with him. Who knows? You can't get bumpers forever, and neither can Redemption Day. So, yeah, you can maybe pigeonhole the form back a little bit because the front two in the market ran a bit below expectation, but the yellow clay was unlucky from the back, trying to run on, met a bit of traffic. The winner was very dominant. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him, presumably next season when he comes back, because he looked, he had the frame really to kind of go places, hurdling wise as well. So I think the second you ought to know is within a shout in the champion bumper. Because as you say, I think better ground would have suited him a bit more as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the Sunday. We'll start with the Ladbrokes Novices Chase, which was a fact to file winning by the length of the straight. Gaelic Warrior obviously really disappointed, really jumped too far right. I can't. Fact to file jumped right, to be fair to him as well, but it wasn't as violent. And Gaelic Warrior just did not do anything worth. I can't understand if anyone would even contemplate backing him after that. Whereas Fact to File, it's probably worked out wrong, because I think he will go to the turners now.
It's a very kind of galloping Deschamps feeling to this, isn't there?
Yeah.
Where you think, oh, you'll be happy, I'm delighted. Brown Advisory winner right there. Willie Mullins has said the start before he's in the Eldon Brown Advisory horse, future Gold Cup horse. I think that's just, it's a winner. He's going to be what, 5-4, 6-4 after that, and then it's the Turners talk comes into the equation. And then you think, oh, he's a future Gold Cup horse. And then Grangeclear West comes out, and then it's all kind of snowballing into, well, he's actually showing a lot of gears there. The fractions say they went a strong clip, and he looked better as the race went on. And I think, oh, if we put a fence in front of him, all of a sudden he's electric and things like that. And it's absolute nonsense, isn't it? I mean, you can identify comfortably the best horse in the division and still get it completely wrong because the options there, it's stuff like that should like have intermediate races scrapped, an intermediate trip, I mean, things like that. But I mean, I think now all of a sudden Willie Mullins, it's fashionable now for him to go send his best novice chaser to the Turners route, because I think the Brown Advisory Turners turning undulation, the old course track, I think it can get a bit attritional and a bit too demanding. Young, and I think with future top class star products, which he thinks he is, I think that the tempting option is Turners. I think it's probably 80-20 that go there, even though I would think 3 miler, Brown Advisory, but it seems to be every passing hour that he's going to go there. Gaelic War, they went a mental clip, in Fact to File readily brushed him aside, and unfortunately for Brown Advisory backers, and that showed that he had the requisite pace to go 2.5, and it's a stiff 2.5 at the old course as well. It's fresh ground. It's the first day of Thursday. You can see the appeal of it for classier horses, that if you've got the pace, we can get this novice exuberance out of them now, and then we can actually teach them to be Gold Cup horses around the same course next year. And I think that's the way they seem to be leaning with now. As for Gaelic Warrior, he was very, very moody in the pre-parade ring, buzzy. He was bolting at the start, and then he bolted at the beginning of the race, and he was absolutely legless and done with in that half mile out. So, and he was jumping right. So you can't keep getting away with expending so much energy like that around left-handed tracks, even beforehand antics and the lifeless runs. So
you kind of knew your card was marked. See, when you saw, I think it was the first in the back straight, he just did a horrendous jump right, and you could see Fact to File. I think Mark Walsh just said, right, if I just stay on my feet here, this is done.
He almost banked one, wouldn't he? And I think Pogtown, if it was a race without just two horses, Pogtown would have pulled him up the last.
I think he would as well, yeah.
Without a doubt, for me. But the ground maybe was drying out a little bit, and I don't think he would have liked that either. But yeah, left-handed over fences, it's not his bag, even though he was maybe out of character and something was bothering him. But
probably Fairy House now into it. I think we'll just maybe dismiss Cheltenham altogether on that.
I'd leave him to punches down personally.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly. They might. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think Fact to File backers for the Brown Advisory are going to be ripping up that slip, especially if you're non-running a bet as I was. We'll move into the future champions at Novices Hurdle. Brilliant performance from Ballybun. Probably the best performance of the weekend. Now into kind of 2-1 for both the Supreme and Baring Bingham. We'll start with the winner. How impressed were you, and where does he go?
Massively impressive. Massively impressive. Yeah, very, very good. A shame that a couple of hurdles were omitted, but he was always tanking along in the prime position. He struck really well. Showed gears. See when they zoom in round the bend and then this is the best horse in the race, just extends away effortlessly. You've seen something really good. That was mid 150s material straight
Best
away
novice performance this season?
by a mile.
Yeah.
By an absolute mile, novice hurling wise. Blows him out of the water, and whatever way he goes, I think he'll probably win. On reflection and on that form. Yeah, he was wildly impressive, and the suspicion was that he would be at some point. But again, you don't know where he's going to go. Ultimately,
If you're Willie Mullins, right, and you have Ballyburn, who's been very impressive, and Mystical Power, who put in a good performance. He did it last year where he'd in Perry Pass, and you'd been very vocal, send him to the Supreme. He went and won the Ballymore. I think Ballyburn is his perfect Supreme horse, but he's done it with Sir Gerhard in the past, where you thought, right, instantly Supreme, sends him Ballymore and he bolts up. I think this isn't cut and dry that he's going Supreme. By the way,
it's not cut and dry any way he goes. It's Willie Mullins. You will not know till the day. But the exchanges are strongly hinting Supreme, and I would probably be 70-30 sure that he would go Supreme route, mainly because his kind of strong staying 2 miles. Sir Gerhard is a bit different. He did have other options there. Patently, always in the Supreme, Sir Gerhard was he's kind of late in the scene as well with Willie Mullins. So I think he was kind of on a kind of Gordon Elliott kind of train there through his novice days in a way, because he trains him there for that kind of medium trip. But I mean, we've seen Classical Dream and appreciate it, take it out like that.
Mm-hmm.
If he was trained by Gordon Elliott, you might think maybe 2.5 miles, like Sam Crow, who also won that pretty impressively in horses like that. So they can go different ways. I think the Bearing Bingham would be easier for him to win, but I think he would be maybe more suited to the pace of the Supreme, because the thing that does him in a little bit can be how keen he gets. And I think you're more likely to get a bigger field in the Supreme in a true run race in the Supreme. And I think the way it's run tends to pan out like in races like Leopardstown was today, and that saw him in really good effect. So while I can do both, and while I wouldn't dismiss any late U-turns, I think he's probably very likely to go Supreme. Normally you get cut in the ground as well. First day in the water easily enough for good to soft. I think that would be ideal for him as well. So yeah, I'm also a firm believer that if you're a championship, if you're Grade 1 2 miler, Grade 1 2 miler, there's a lot more prestige in winning the Supreme than that. And also the other cards that he's got, I think he'll run Mystical Power and Mark Walsh will be on board. And I think
the Supreme,
yes, they'll both go Supreme for me.
Okay,
easily. They're his 2 Supreme horses. He doesn't have anything else. Daddy Longlegs and Better Ground he'll be revolutionary, but even I don't think he's going to all of a sudden become a Supreme contender.
I think he puts all his cards in Little Antique for the Ballymore.
Little Antique will go Barring Bingham. He's got Reen Tommy Wrong for the Barring Bingham. He's got others there that can make a bit. Last year it was kind of the bunched approach was in the Supreme where he ran 5 or 6.
Yeah.
This year, I think it's the other way around, where he ran his best 1, 2, 3 clearly in the Barring Bingham last time. I think he's got a clear kind of 1, 2 in the Supreme there, and I think they're going to be his 2 milers, and the rest are going to be pretty much 2.5 milers. I don't think it'll be that category, but I think he'll have 4. I think he's got around about 4 that can go Barring Bingham in a really open race. It'll probably challenge kind of Slade Steel or something like that, and be in the mix. They might bump into one, but I think he's keen to lock out Supreme, because I wouldn't be worried about Jericho Derepany, maybe even Firefox and things. They'll need to kind of step up a little bit to the top 2. I think, and Paul Townend would want to ride a really good one as well in that race. It's not as if Paul Townend had to choose between Mystical Power 1. Mark Walsh will win Mystical Power, and Paul Townend would be in Ballyburn, and it's as simple as that, really. And then that kind of clears him up to to maybe ride the laurels on Ace winner or Atlantique in the Bearing Bingham, and he's also Predators Gold will be there. He's ready to have an each way chance. Billericay Dickey could even go there. He has more endless lists at that kind of 16-25 to win bracket in the Bearing Bingham than in the Supreme, and I think that's what might make the difference. So I think Ballyburn, most likely, and the markets are kind of pointing that way, that he will run the Supreme, but it's Willie Mullins, so you can't say that with 100% confidence.
Very impressive run in second from Slade Steele, who looked as if he would be better over further. You must have been delighted with that.
Pleased, and even if Ballyburn goes Bearing Bingham and Slade Steele goes Supreme, I don't think he'll win a Supreme, because I think he needs he needs that intermediate trip, and he shaped exactly as I thought he would do, and hopefully he's in a kind of division where nobody's kind of really set the heather in light. I think he's probably just the best place for him in behind. So, and I think he will take another step up at Cheltenham, because that's how Henry de Bromhead trains his best novices. They gradually improve, and it's very in the pocket and I think this time they'll go for the right race. 14's into 9-2, and he's on the exchanges. I think it's about 25, 27 for the Supreme, and he's 5s for the Bearing Bingham. So, but you get peace of mind by not backing Willie Mullins at this stage, even if they're more likely to win, but they might not turn up. So, I'm pretty pleased with that position.
Yeah. El Fabiolo won the Dublin Chase, beat Dino Blue by 8.5 lengths. It was a fairly good El Fabiolo performance. Jumped a bit right and didn't always jump the best, but he's just so much better than everything in his division, and full ahead to Cheltenham.
Yeah, it didn't impress everyone, but I don't think you want to be massively impressive, before with Cheltenham in hindsight. I think he's left a little bit on him, perhaps did so well. I mean, last year he does that with 2-milers. He's sussed it out now. Don't peak them. Don't overdo it early doors. Duvan was pretty exuberant, and it caught some of them out. So Shaq and Poursuat, it can take the edge off 2-mile chasers a little bit if you beat them too much. So I think he's ran about to 170 there. And yeah, he's got a lot less to prove than main market rival John Bond. That's for sure coming into it. But he still has that capacity to clout one, but just doesn't seem to bother him. And Dino Blue shaped quite well for a Mayor's Chase candidate down the line. Plugged on, lost a bit of lengths in the air, which maybe confirmed that. And pedigree suggests 2.5 miles would be fine, but she should have far too much class for them in the Mayor's Chase, even regardless of the trip. So I just think a sensible ride to make sure that you don't kind of just overdo it early doors. And I think only kind of bad tactics can really get her beat there in the Mayor's Chase. Gentleman to me was a bit disappointed from the front. Captain Guinness ran a little bit better at Leopardstown than he normally does. Might be an interesting race for third for him and Edwardstone and horses like that.
Irish champion hurdle, State Man made it 8 Grade 1s and 10 victories, I believe. Very, very impressive again. Really weird situation when Perry passed, where they decided to take the lead on him. You could tell almost instantly he didn't like it. He's not been entered in anything at Cheltenham, so I find that intriguing. But State Man, we're never going to appreciate how good State Man is because there's a monster in 7 Barrels, but he just does it so well.
Yeah, it was very convincing. This could have been a career best. We're not sure, because, I mean, same with Constitution, they kind of keep beating the same horses with as much conviction as they have done. So, and connections of State Man last year were pretty insistent that he was a bit below his peak form. So there are reasons that he could maybe make more of a race of it. He seems to be a bit better this year, I think. It's a bit more kind of convincing to him, but maybe he's beaten a bit lesser opposition. But I thought Bob Orlinger ran well in second. That was kind of more encouraging. He's going to Aintree, so is Perry Pass. They're targeting the 2.5 miler at Aintree, which quite a few are now. So they'll go there fresh and skip the champion hurdle, which I don't really understand. I think you're playing for places anyway. Running the champion hurdle, I mean, what is there to lose? You're not going to knock the edge off somebody 2.5 mile. 4 weeks later at Aintree, you know that's your race. Just go and it's 58 grand for third in it. Just turn up and take them. I do not understand it. It's going to be like a 4-runner race with Pied Piper not so sleepy in the big 2 guns. Just go and maybe make a race of it. I think that's the thing that racing needs to do a little bit more of. But and Perry Pass hated leading, but they had to try and do something to worry Stateman, and leading was one thing that didn't do, but it didn't work, and he kind of spat the dummy out. Stateman didn't want to pick him up straight away, and he's a galloper. He goes to the line.
Callum, we'll kind of club the handicaps together. Maxim, Madara, Brucio, Hartwood, a big winner for us. Lord Erskine won as well, and Fleury Fassel won the Mayor's Bumper. Any eye catchers in them?
I think Madara coming over and winning was quite good for the Brits. I mean, it shows that it can be done, your handicap with a chance. Sophie Leach seemed quite intent going for the plates. I think that kind of stepping up and tripping in the old course might be more suitable. I wasn't quite sure. I mean, I think the Grand Angle was absolutely fine, but he did power to the line. Brucio Race, I don't think there was much to glean from that. The winner could be better. They were kind of thinking maybe going the Mayor's Novice route. I think that might be a little bit of a step too far with him. There was a lot of unlucky losers behind Hartwood as well. It kind of felt like that became a little bit messy. The Lord Erskine race, they went fairly fast, and it kind of was a pace collapse there. There'll be plenty kind of down the field that will shape well and people can glean off. I didn't think there was too much that was blatantly obvious. I mean, Good Time Johnny was one that everyone's going to earmark for the Kim Muir. Up and Trip, his jump should be a bit better. He kind of shaped equally unconvincingly last year when he came out and won the pair tops. That's possible. I thought Cool Survivor was a place in front of him. Was also a plausible Gordon Elliott kind of job for the Kim Muir as well. I think there was plenty in that race with a view in the 2 mile 5 that could go up and trip and go for a Kim Muir, things like that. But yeah, there was a few, but there was nothing that kind of leapt out massively to me.
Final two races we'll mention. Monday in Punchestown, Cocoa Beach has went into 5-1 for the cross country after his performance, and Wednesday in Fairyhouse, bit of a messy race. Velvet Elvis won, and Corbett's Cross obviously was a bit hampered. Takeaways from any of them, and have we seen any Cheltenham winners out of those two races?
Cocoa Beach took it like a duck to water in the Punchestown banks. Unlike Statler, who hated it, it's the kind of thing with these. You never know how they're going to take to things and deal with it. Statler probably too slow, but in Cocoa Beach has improved. It won a big handicap early in the season. He's won that. He seems to be kind of fulfilling his potential a little bit more this year. He is a kind of Grand National type profile. He Delta what runs in the Boyne this weekend. I'll probably reveal more about him, but and Conflated seems to be Ryanair option for him after a decent run in the Irish Gold Cup. Yes, I think that whoever Jack Kennedy picks between Galvin, Cocoa Beach, Delta Work is the one that Gordon Elliott will go to war with against Muralindo, and I think that's about it in the cross country chase. Leave it and decide on the day what the pecking order is for Elliott, and then you think can I take it on with Muralindo? The moment, probably of loyalty more than any kind of genuine interest in the race, I would back Muralindo.
We'll move into our weekend preview. Callum, we've just been informed that Warwick has been abandoned, so we've got Newbury on Saturday. We've got a card at Naas that we'll maybe touch on a couple, but we'll start with the three big races on Newbury. We'll start with 205, the Denman Chase. Shishkin, who has been fairly luckless this season so far, has obviously refused and unseated when looking as if he was going to win the King George. Lines up here against Protectorate, who I thought ran quite a good race behind Lahon Press. Shishkin, where are we at? Do you think this is a Shishkin at 8-13 a good thing?
It depends if he jumps off, doesn't it, as per usual? Yeah, I think he'll win this. 8-13 might not actually be bad. A lot of them have got plenty to prove here. Protectorate, he's shaping well, but he's not getting any kind of better, is he, on the ratings? And he's got £8 from Shishkin, who is about 8-1 for a Gold Cup. I mean, what would Protectorate be around now? He's going to be about 3 times that price if you're lucky, probably 4. So yeah, I think Shishkin should really win this, even though Protectorate's maybe gradually improving throughout the season. But it's whether he's going to be on song or not. Shishkin, if you want to back him at 8-13, that's a kind of killer question. you'd probably just sit it out and watch, to be honest, given this kind of small field nature of it. Nicky Anderson reportedly is in good form. So, yeah, I'd expect him to win. Hitman's got a lot to prove. He's been shocking this season. 2 win dops. Sam Brown's 12. Dizzy knows rated like 152, which is £20 inferior to Shishkin, and he's only getting £2. So yeah, it could be heavy ground. It could be attritional, which might bring a Sam Brown into the equation. He's been nibbled at slightly, but he's 12 and he really shouldn't be up to winning this.
No.
If the top two run accordingly. So yeah, it's a sit back and watch, but you'd expect Shishkin to get it done, and hopefully he does, because it will make him a bit of a player. Might be pushing fast or slow for second favourite in the Gold Cup after this.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into the game spirit. Chase looks to be heavy ground. Edwardstone 13-8, 94 Boot Hill, and you've got Editha de G, Amarillo Sky, Funable, Savilla. I think the champion Chase could get even less runners in the champion hurdles. I think we maybe want something here to impress, and I think the most likely one out of the bunch is Edwardstone.
Probably, yeah. He didn't get home at Kempton. He was lit up behind that race in Banbridge. He travelled in it reasonably well, but he was too keen to do himself justice, and they're coming back to 2 miles. He's the best in this. He's going to give £2 to Boot Hill, who I thought looked like winning the last day at Kempton. Desert Orchid, I thought he was going to win that. He was kind of travelling well into it, 4 out. He's ominously well. He's getting in 4th, a length down, travelling the best off a big weight. It's just whether he's it was a hefty enough fall. It's just whether he's going to be confident enough to pick up the trait. But he's not at high class graded form in comparison to what Edwardstone's done. I know he can pick holes in the kind of 2 mile chase division and behind the top 2, but at least Edwardstone's kind of been there and done it, and he's running reasonably consistently. Now, Alan King's horses are in the best form they've been all season now, and I think that's enough. And I think this is his kind of cup final in a way. He ran quite well the month before Cheltenham itself. This is his kind of race, his kind of level. Yeah, and I think he's reasonable enough bet. 13-8, 74. I expect him to go in.
Yeah, I fancy him here. We'll move into the Betfair Hurdle. Always a very competitive handicap. And Calum, it's very unlike me to have a strong fancy in this race, but I think Altabelli 8-1 for Harry Fry. I think this has been as you can usually say, cup final. I think that is the plan. I don't think the Mullins Gamble horse, the Ocastle de Motts, I think that there'll be a drift on him. I think Altabelli 8-1's a knocking bet.
Yeah, he's rock solid each week. He's the one at the top of the market I like. I think Ibn Equal Lord probably wants further. Nicky Henderson's wrecking this race, not for 17, not good. It can be a stepping stone to Cheltenham.
Do you remember the last Nicky Henderson winner of this race?
No, it was more than a decade ago, wasn't it?
My 10 or yours?
Yeah, 2013. Yeah, I should have known that. But Castle de Motts could be anything but 6s. He's drifting out the market a little bit. It's hard to kind of the case for him, but the ground is going to come right for him at least. That's a positive. Teller the name's interesting. I thought Ben Pauling's got quite a good team of youngsters. The Sydney Banks winner was decent as well yesterday. Headstands, handstands, one of those two. Beat a decent kind of Django Bay of Nicky Henderson's fairly reasonably. Maybe Harry Cobden outroads James Bone a little bit, but he won it quite well. He's about 16s for the Barring Bingham. He's got 3 or 4 good novels. His Teller name's kind of their supreme horse. Harry Cobden's an interesting booking. He did pull up Aintree when it was soft ground in the Grade 1. Funnily enough, that Django Bay actually won. But 135 is not really, and it is a race that kind of goes well. 5-6-year-olds have a really good record in it. So he's a potential player at a price. There were other big ones that I quite liked at a price. Norman Fletcher at 28s for Nigel Twiston-Davis. He targets this quite well. He's won it with Bally Andy, horses like that in the past. Mm-hmm. I think this has been the target for a long time, this horse. But the problem is, I don't think deep ground might seem the best effect. He won in spite of it at Aintree, and he ran quite well at Haydock in spite of it. But I think he'd be a better horse and better ground. But he won't be completely blunted by the heavy ground. But I think he wants better ground. But he's going to have featherweight. I think 28s. He's too big. And our champ as well, the Freddie Gordon, riding for Chris Gordon's trainer. He takes off a decent 5. he just found the Jerry feeling a little bit too hot. He was well backed at Kempton subsequently. He's just been kind of found out in the market. 128, he's been dipped. He's down to 124 now. Claimer takes off another 5. He's kind of back to that last winning mark where he was very impressive 4 starts ago. 33s. It's a bit big, and that trainer's had chances in the past. So, and Donica, Nigel Hawkes, is also interesting at 33.40 to 1. He usually runs his best novice in this. He's got a few, and this certainly is it. And he was bang there in the Cheltenham trial on the 15th of December behind Pinjari, who won the Scottish Supreme at Musselburgh this weekend. So he's pretty unexposed as a featherweight, and he gets attrition. He goes well on soft ground. Won at Warwick quite comfortably on similar going. And he's off 119, so he's getting weight all round. So, I mean, the rain is meant to come now, but it's meant to get very heavy. I can see him. I think it'd be better 2.5 miler, but I can see him running into a place if he overdoes it. So, yeah, I think I agree with you at the top of the market. I think Altobelli is the most interesting, but yeah, I think there's 3 or 4 outsiders that you can certainly consider as well.
Yeah, absolutely. At Naas, we've got a very interesting race in the opener. Especially if you like the Boodles handicap hurdle, 4 of the last 5 winners of that race have come from this opener at Naas on Saturday. So it's worth keeping an eye on. I quite like Lark in the morning for Joseph O'Brien in that. I think he could take all the beating and potentially go to the. I think he's at the top of the market in the Boodles. I think it could be even better in the market after that.
It's already 6 to 1. I mean, what
I
are
know.
people doing in this? It's a 4-year-old handicap where you don't know anything about them, and and horses are getting backed in at 5-6 to 1, 5 weeks beforehand. I don't understand it. I on my long list of these of horses that I thought might be Boodles contenders, Pachiri was on there.
Yeah.
The second favourite of Gordon Elliott's 116 at the moment. Jack Kennedy on. I do think he's interesting. I'm interested to see how he runs, because the last year I thought he was beginning to show his kind of true level of ability there. Yeah, and I think it's probably between those two. Nara had a decent reputation pre-season. It didn't quite work out, but anyway, the Bromhead's yard seemed. This is where they start to kind of improve a little bit. So they'll start to click into gear for spring. So yeah, out of the 6, the 3 that we'll be looking at for Boodles would be Lark in the morning, Pachiri, and Nara potentially. The No Meat horse, open to question. It could be anything. He sprang a Jeff Kidder surprise in the race. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be suckered in by even if it looks so obvious. There's still plenty of time for that to change in the day, and the obvious ones of late have been beaten.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into Navan on Sunday. We have 2 Grade 2s. We'll start with the Boyne Hurdle. Quite an interesting field. Blazing Cal 5 to 2, Ashdale Bob 7 to 2. You've got Beacon Edge, Hidden Valley Lake, Sire de Bell, Stairs Hurdle winner, Galvin, Delta Work. It's a fairly competitive race. Blazing Cal being favourite is only because he won this last year.
And the heavy grounds, and he's done it before off the same length, and it's form that's better than all of these in their pomp. Ashdale Bob, it's a course distance, but this trip is a bit debatable. Could he be running in terms of maybe another bid at the Coral Cup where he ran quite credibly before? Beacon Edge likes it here. Has won this race before, course and distance. And with Gordon Elliott, I think he might be past his best a little bit. Hidden Valley Lake fell last time, bit of a retrieval job here. He's in maybe a bit deep off 139. Galvin Delta Work, they're just pipe openers for the cross country. And Sire de Belly will definitely need this as well, but it's his conditions. It's a race that screams leave alone. Pleasing Cal, if he's back 85-90% fit, I think he'll win.
We've got the 10 up novices chasing a very interesting entry and declaration as Nick Rocket is entered and declared for this round by Paul Townend. 11 to 10 favourite. I think he obviously needs to run here to qualify for the National Hunt Chase, but I think the fact that their Townend's on board wouldn't surprise me if they're thinking maybe 3 miler.
You don't know.
You don't know.
That's the thing, I mean, if they're on, you might be on the most exciting ticket in the world, or it might be absolutely useless. I I think he's got enough class to go in the Brown Advisory, you know, and the way it's shaping up, if you're knocking these horses back, he'd be the one that I'd be looking at, you know, to maybe deputise Grange Clear West and run there, because Manila Kakuna does need that trip. I'm not sure Nick Rocket does. I think he might have enough pace to kind of counteract it. American Might being chucked in here is tentatively interesting. He skipped the kind of 2 mile 5 race for this because it would be heavier ground. Jack Kennedy's on board. He never runs 2 races alike. 2 starts ago was good. The last day wasn't good. He wouldn't be surprised if he actually put in a decent run here and outran his odds at 10s. Manila Kakuna might be getting the hang of things now, but he's still got to kind of string 2 runs together, hasn't he? And Fafaro Deschamps I think's better right-handed. So, yeah, Nick Rocket's the class act of it. American might run well at a price.
We'll move into our anti-post selections. Calum, you had a pick last week and I didn't, so I've got 2 picks for this episode, and they're both filthy each way plays, by the way. They're not good. I don't think they're winners. I think they're going to find a horse better than them, but I think at the prices, I think they're worth playing each way. But I'm going to give the floor to you for your first anti-post pick.
Adding to the filth in handicaps, it's in the Perth Top Network Handicap Hurdle Final, and it's Highland 20-1 each way. I thought this horse was incredibly impressive in the first qualifier in October at Cheltenham, where Connections, Nicky Henderson said he didn't want soft ground, he was absolutely fine on it, cantered into it, won with a good deal of authority. It's usually a strong pointer to the race. He's been largely left alone. He's had 1 run in between where it was a credible third behind Ed Keeper, who seems to be a kind of upwardly mobile young horse. The horse he beat at Eltham Flight Deck was only a 2-length defeat third in the Cleeve subsequently. So there is kind of an okay kind of form line to it. I think the main Irish contingent here tend to be handicapped out of this these days. I think you kind of need a sleeper kind of smaller Irish stable to kind of go in under the radar in here. I think the kind of Elliott battalion is covered, and I think the way the qualifying system is now structured, they move races away from Ireland. It's only the top 4 they get in. I think it's a lot harder for them to actually, for the big stables, kind of map one out, and I think they've kind of given up on it a little bit. I know Kerr Allen's in there. I don't think he's a 3 mile stayer to me. I think you can take him on at the top of the market. And I think Nicky Henderson, this is the one he's put away. He's been moaning about Bold Endeavour's mark. Chantry House is a sexy horse, but he's old and pretty exposed. I don't think he should be half the price as Highland. This is a young upcomer, sleeper that's come in. Very lightly raced, and he only gets £6 for that effort in October, and he's had 1 run subsequently, which was off big top weight against experienced horses, and he ran very creditably in third. No course and distance. No, it was an old course, a bit more undulating, but he handled. It was a big field that day. He handled the hustle and bustle of it well. He goes in any ground from his old days. He's quite consistent by the looks of it, and 135 seems to be a more manageable mark. So while a lot of these handicap horses are priced pretty prohibitively, or all these races actually at 8, 10, 12 to 1 bracket, I think this guy at 20s is a shade of value, because he's definitely going to go. It's definitely been the plan. They were planning to go over fences with him, then he won that qualifier, and they went, well, if we've qualified for this, we might as well go for it. And that was Nick Anderson's mantra, and that was back in October.
Yeah.
He's very, very good at mapping one out for a Cheltenham handicap long term. Very good at it, Nicky Henderson. He's one of the British trainers, one of the few British trainers that would actually think that far out. I think over it, and I think he's a big player at 20s.
Very good. Yeah, I think it's a good one. I think it's a very eye-catching pick from yourself there. I've got 2, and on the first 2 races of the Tuesday, hoping to get off to a flying start from an each way perspective. I've already had picks in these, but I'm going to take another roll of the dice. Going to start my Supreme. I've got a 12-1 pick. I think with Ballyburn winning on Saturday at Dublin Racing Festival, it kind of led me to think of a certain horse who didn't run the best in the Lawlers of Naas, but there was excuses. He was lame. I think Firefox, we know he's going here at 12-1. I think as an each way player, he's beaten Ballyburn before. There was excuses last time out. He's showed promise this season. I think he didn't. I think even if he didn't go to the Laurels of Naas, he'd probably be half the price he is now. I really think at 12-1 he's a belt in each way price. Gordon Elliott always is one that you think, like, he's done it in the past. He always is one who he can earmarks for this, and almost instantly after the Laurels of Naas, he said Firefox is lame. Jack Kennedy said this is who I'll ride in the Supreme, so we know he's going here. I think 12-1's a good each way bet here, and I'm going to put him up.
Yeah, I think it's a solid shout. I mean, I think Ballyburn's that far clear. He should probably be close in the market. It's just that last run.
Yeah.
Liam, is he over it? And that's kind of unknown. And he has had hold-ups in his bumper days, so he's maybe not the most reliable. But at this stage, I think he's probably the kind of correct kind of each way player of it, because you know you've got that kind of non-runner no bet consolidation. So if he's still not quite right, you're probably going to get your money back anyway. So he's either going to, hopefully he'd either kind of run well, do himself justice, or Connects will think that he will, certainly he's over it and he'll go and do himself justice, or he's not quite right and overcome it and you'll get your money back. So yeah, it's the best form, and it ties in with Ballyburn as well. And if you think that's a street ahead of the rest, then he's definitely a big each way player.
Yeah, and the next one in the Arkle, you know more than anybody, Calum, that I have slated the British form in the Arkle picture. But I don't think the Irish form is holding up too much. And I think JPR1 deserves a shout each way at 12-1. I think if Matata was going to win this weekend, I think naturally JPR1 would have shortened. JPR1, the only worry I've got is he's jumping. Like, he's been very, very good on a couple of occasions. He's been really unlucky in a couple of races where he's belted one and it's just done him out the win. He could be sitting here 4 out of 4 already this season. And I think at 12-1, when the Irish picture isn't overly dominant, I mean, Marine Nationals come back. I tend to agree with you on the likes of LA to Tomp and Found a 50 that I don't think they are Arkle horses. The only one that I think of a Mullins perspective that's dangerous, that's probably been high in the market, is Hunter's Yarn. But I don't know if he's an out-and-out Grade 1 horse. I think JPR1 at 12-1. If JPR1 can put a rounder jumping in, I think he'll be in the frame. I don't think he'll win. I think he'll find one better. But if this is a 6-7 runner race, he could finish in the top 3.
Yeah, I think it'll be more now after Marine National warming out. Interesting, after that, watching Win the Lightning, I said that I had a bet on him 9-1 each way without Marine National. And I think that's still probably a very good bet.
Probably.
It's a market where you're thinking, you go through them all and thinking, can I see that winning? No. So maybe it's a market that's kind of, for me, I was very close to putting up Collexios at 12s.
Yeah.
And then I saw that go, and it's now 10s, 9s, and I thought, I can leave it now because he's maybe got enough to kind of find. But I think I thought it might be a market that might reveal itself a little bit more when it does settle slightly more in maybe a week or two's time. Maybe it will be a bit of a clearer picture because there's question marks over a lot of them. But it's cherry right to have a go at something. I think GPR1's jumping is very good.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he can overpitch at the last, and that's why people have got the slight doubt about him. But I think it's a big asset, and I think it's why he's a player in this. And yeah, he does travel a bit of class, and I think it'll suit him, and I think he will do himself justice. I thought he was in the frame beforehand. I was just thinking that 9-1 without Marine National was a better bet than the 16s at the time. I still do, because it comes in whether Marine National is there or not, but he's still got to beat the rest. So he's just taking one horse out of the crowded equation picture, and it also don't have to worry about the kind of, is he or is he not back, because if he is back, then so be it, and if he's not, then he's not. So I'm pretty happy with that position straight after Lingfield on him, and it's the only position I have in that Arkle race. But yeah, people are warming to him, and that shows how much these markets can change in one race. You think something's bomb-proof, and all of a sudden it's incredibly vulnerable. That's horse racing. And then there's racing, and people should, Nickelback's a Grade 1 winner. There's horses.
Yeah.
Elixir de Nuts is a Grade 1 winner. Things happen in races, but you've got to be in it to win it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of where I'm kind of getting at as well. I think that he's comfortably best of the British when you actually look at it. Like, and again, that's not a real competition, because I don't think the British novices are good at all, but he's comfortably been better than all of them. It's just been his ability to clout one. I actually think a bigger Arkle field might actually help him. Like,
I think it will. I think
yeah.
you travel and take a lead, and I think you like it. And I've got him in the high 140s, and that Irish Arkle I gave Ility top 150.
Yeah.
He's bang there if they all run like that again.
Yeah,
Bang
no,
there.
I think I'm fairly. It's not very often I'll put up to filthy each ways, but I'm doing it this week. Next week, Carl, I'm going to make a commitment that I am going to find the winner of the champion bumper. That is my pick for next week. I know it's a minefield. I've got one in my radar, and I hope he doesn't change in price. That's a clue in itself, and I hope that I'm going to put him up next week if all being well.
Yes, it's a race. There's 28 races, and it's comfortably 25th, 26th, 27th, or 28th in my agenda list, along with the Boodles and the cross country and probably the 100 chase.
Well, we want the 100 chase as well, actually, but he could. I think that's on the line. Will win that. I think he runs
So
it.
do I.
I think he runs
72
tomorrow.
isn't that bad? Particularly if Billoway's going for like 5-timer there.
Yeah,
It's won the last 4. So yeah, I think it's on the line. It's a bit classier. You know, I think the top 2 from last year are still kind of the top 2 that you're dealing with at the moment. I would say in the Hunter's Chase. But yeah, it's just like 72. So what? You know, he's going to be 2-1 in the day probably. It's a Hunter's Chase. It's a Gold Cup trip for amateurs. You know, you don't want to be backing odds too prohibitive, too far out in a race of that nature.
But that has been our latest episode of Road to Cheltenham, Calum. It's always a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much, and have a good hunting weekend.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it'll be quieter than last weekend, but yeah, we're gearing up towards Cheltenham now. It's kind of at the stage where kind of every 3 hour you're kind of looking at markets, aren't you? So see what's shifting, and hoping not to see the dreaded Red X, which I've seen more times, I think, pre-Christmas and post-Christmas at the moment. So yeah, it's certainly in the fun zone territory now. Every week, every day, it gets closer and closer. The excitement just builds and builds and builds.
Yeah, it's getting closer. Thank you very much indeed, folks. We will see you all next week.